Snow fell quietly across the frozen land. The wind howled like a sad ghost, and the sky was gray as stone. Nothing moved, except for one lonely figure, a weak alien woman, holding a small bundle close to her chest. Her name was Vira. Her skin was light blue, her eyes glowing dimly, but her face showed exhaustion and pain. Her thin clothes were torn. Her hands shook from the cold, but still she held her child tightly and walked through the snow, searching, hoping. There was no one left. Her tribe had cast her out. They said her child was cursed, born with a strange glowing mark on his chest. The elders believed it was a sign of bad luck, a punishment from the ancient sky spirits. They told Vira to leave, or they would take the child and throw him into the ice pits. She ran. For days she had wandered the snowlands with no food, no shelter, and now, no more strength. She reached a small hill and collapsed to her knees. The baby stirred in her arms, his small voice weak and tired. Vera pulled her last blanket around him. Her lips were purple. Her breath came slow. "I'm sorry, my little star," she whispered. "I tried, I really tried." She looked around, only white emptiness, no help, no life. She knew what was coming. The cold was already crawling into her bones. She could feel her heartbeat slowing. She gently rocked the baby and began to sing. It was an old lullaby, a song from her childhood. Her mother had once sung it to her during storms. "Sleep now, little fire in the snow so deep. The night is dark, but love will keep." Tears ran down her face as she sang, the words breaking with each breath. Her child listened, his little eyes still open, and just as Vira's voice faded into silence, she heard it. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Footsteps, heavy, one's coming closer. She blinked, thinking it was a dream. Then she saw him, a tall figure in the snow, a human, wearing a thick coat of dark gray armor with a long rifle on his back and snow clinging to his boots. He was limping. His face was covered by a visor, but when he saw Vera and the child, he stopped. For a long moment, no one spoke. Only the wind. Then the human knelt beside her. "Hey," he said softly, his voice deep and tired. "You're not supposed to be out here." Vira's lips trembled. "Go away." But her voice was too weak. The man looked at her, then at the baby. He pulled off his gloves and reached into his backpack. He took out a small thermal blanket and wrapped it around the child carefully. His skin's ice cold, he muttered. "We need heat." He opened a small emergency pod and placed a glowing cube near the baby. The warmth spread slowly. Vira stared at him. "Why, are you helping me?" she whispered. The man didn't answer right away. He set up a small fire dome, blocking the wind. He took out food packets and offered her one. "Because I couldn't save them," he said finally. "Not back then." Vera blinked. "Them? My family," he said quietly. "I lost them in the same kind of storm." She looked down at the fire. Her child was already sleeping, face peaceful for the first time in days. The man reached up and removed his visor. He was older than she expected, maybe mid-40s, tired eyes, a scar across one cheek, but kind. "My name's Jack," he said. She stared at him, then whispered, "Vira." He nodded slowly. "Well, Vira, we're gonna make it, I promise." She looked into his eyes. No cruelty, no fear, just truth. The first honest eyes she had seen in a long time. Her own eyes closed. Her head fell forward. But this time, she wasn't falling into death. She was falling into hope. Outside the small fire dome, the wind kept howling. But, inside, the lullaby had changed. It was no longer a final goodbye. It was the beginning of something new. The wind screamed through the white sky, but inside the glowing fire dome it was quiet, almost peaceful. Vera opened her eyes slowly. Her body ached. Her arms were numb. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she felt warmth, real warmth. She looked down. Her child, still alive, was curled against her chest, wrapped in a glowing thermal blanket. His little fingers moved. His chest rose and fell. Alive. Vira's eyes filled with tears. She was not dreaming. The human Jack sat a few feet away, checking the power cells on his gear. His armor was scratched and old, patched together with alien parts. A strange symbol was painted on his shoulder, half sun, half blade. He looked up when he saw her move. "You're awake." Vira tried to speak, but her throat was dry. Jack handed her a small bottle of warming fluid. "Drink this slowly." She sipped it. Her body shivered, then calmed. Color returned to her cheeks. "Where are we?" she asked, her voice still weak. Jack pointed to the snow-covered hill behind them. "North edge of the Frostlands. The storm pushed you far. I spotted your heat signature by accident." Vira blinked. "You have scanners?" Jack nodded. "Old tech. Barely works. But lucky for you, it picked up your body heat just before it faded." She looked down at her child. We almost, Jack interrupted gently. "You didn't. That's what matters." He opened a pack and offered her food. Strange. Soft cubes, but warm and full of energy. She ate in silence, then finally asked, "Why did you help me?" Jack didn't answer at first. He stared into the fire. "My job was to study alien worlds," he said, "before war changed everything." Vira listened, unsure if she should trust him. "My ship crashed 5 years ago," Jack continued. "Everyone else died. I survived." Vira looked surprised. "Alone all this time?" Jack gave a dry smile. "The planet kept me busy." He leaned back against a rock and looked at the cloudy sky. "I came to help build peace," he said. "But my people brought guns instead of gifts. When they left me behind, I promised myself, next time I find someone who needs help, I won't walk away." He looked at Vira. "You were singing to your child," he said softly. "It wasn't a goodbye, not if you still had that much hope left." Vira said nothing, because he was right. She had kept singing even as her body gave up, not for herself, but for the child. As night fell, the fire dome glowed brighter. Snow piled up outside, but inside it was safe, warm. Jack worked on a small machine near the fire. Vira watched him. "What is that?" she asked. "Signal booster," he replied. "I'm trying to reach a lost station a few miles east. If it's still active, it might have shelter, food, medicine." Vira nodded. "Can you walk that far?" he smirked. "I've walked farther with broken ribs." She tilted her head. "Why do humans always joke when they're in pain?" "Because we're stupid like that." She smiled, just a little. Jack glanced at the baby. "Does he have a name?" Vira shook her head slowly. "Our tribe does not name cursed ones." Jack frowned. "He doesn't look cursed to me." She touched her child's face gently. "He was born with a mark, a glowing shape. The elders said it was from the stars, a sign of death." "Can I see it?" Jack asked. Vira hesitated, then slowly pulled down the child's blanket. On the baby's small chest, glowing faintly beneath the skin, was a star-shaped mark, 5 points, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. Jack stared at it. He had seen something like this before, in a database from an ancient human mission. It was a symbol from the old prophets, a sign that marked beings with potential to connect with both energy and thought. This child might be more important than anyone realized. "Maybe your people got it wrong," Jack said. Vira looked down. "Maybe." Then her eyes turned sharp. "Do you hear that?" Jack paused. A sound echoed beyond the fire dome, distant but real, not wind, howling, low, deep, and hungry. Vira's body stiffened. "Snow beasts." Jack grabbed his rifle. "They usually don't come this close." Vira stood and clutched her child tight. Jack loaded the rifle calmly. They smell the baby, they think he's weak. He looked at Vira, but they don't know his mother. Vira met his eyes, and for the first time she didn't look like a dying woman in the snow. She looked like a warrior. Outside, the wind carried the howls. Inside, the fire grew stronger, and so did hope. The fire dome still burned through the night, but now it was guarded. Jack stood at the edge, rifle ready. His eyes scanned the darkness beyond the snow. The howls had stopped, but that was no comfort. Snow beasts didn't howl unless they had already locked onto a scent, and they had smelled the baby. Behind him, Vira sat with her child, rocking him slowly. Her eyes no longer looked hollow or afraid. Instead, they were steady, calm, watchful. He had called her strong, and now she remembered what that felt like. By morning, the wind had died down. Jack stepped outside to check the tracks. The snow was thick, but deep claw prints circled their camp, just outside the dome's safety field. They were close, he muttered. He returned inside. We can't stay here, we need to move. There's a research station southeast. Old. Human tech. I think it might still be online. Vira wrapped her child tighter. Then we walk. Jack raised an eyebrow. You sure you're ready? Vira stood tall. I was born in storms. Snow is just another enemy. Jack grinned. All right then, Stormborn. Hours passed as they crossed the white wasteland. The baby, still unnamed, slept silently against Vira's chest, his tiny hand sometimes glowing faintly beneath the cloth. Jack saw it each time, and every time it stirred something in him, not fear but awe. What was your tribe like? He asked as they walked. Vira didn't answer for a while. Then with a distant voice she said, strong, proud, but afraid of change. They abandoned you. They abandoned him. She corrected. They only saw the mark. They never asked what it meant. They called him cursed, and called me his cursed mother. Jack frowned. I've met cursed people. You're not one of them. Vira looked at him. You don't know what I've done. I don't care, he said. You held your baby through a blizzard. That's enough for me. Vira didn't reply, but her steps grew a little steadier. By sunset, they reached the edge of a frozen cliff. Below, buried under ice and snow, were the remains of a human research outpost, metal towers, antenna spires, and long-forgotten tunnels. Jack checked his scanner. Signals weak, but the core might still be working. There could be food, heating cells, maybe even comms. They climbed down carefully, entering through a broken wall. Inside, the place was dead. Dust, ice, broken lights, old machines, but in the main control room, Jack found what he needed. Backup generator, he said, wiping ice from the panel. Manual start. If I can get this running. Vira looked around. This place feels wrong. Jack paused. How so? She looked toward a sealed door with strange markings. My people once feared these places. They said the humans who built them tried to copy the sky gift. Jack followed her gaze. The sealed door had a faded warning in both alien script and English. Do not access biostorage chamber without protective gear. Genetic hazard. His heart sank. He had seen doors like this before. Experimentation rooms. Vira placed her hand on the door. I don't want to open it, but I feel like it's connected to him. She looked down at her baby. Jack said nothing, but he felt it too. Something bigger was hidden behind that door. That night, inside the warm control room, Jack got the power online. Old lights flickered. A few screens came to life. He connected his tablet and began searching logs. What are you looking for? Vira asked. Records, he replied. I want to know what they did here. And then he found it. Project Snowborn. Goal: unlock genetic potential of frost-resistant species. Result: Subject Zeta shows accelerated neural growth and organ resistance. Caution: emotional imprinting extremely high. Subject Zeta was marked with the star sigil. Jack's blood ran cold. Vira stepped closer. What does it mean? He looked up slowly. This isn't the first child like yours. Vira's eyes widened. What? He turned the tablet to her. They made others years ago. Hybrid children. Crossed with your kind. But none survived long, except maybe one. Vira held her baby tighter. My child is not a weapon, she whispered. No, Jack said, but someone might try to make him one. Suddenly a sound echoed down the hallway, a door opening, footsteps. Slow, heavy. Not snow beasts, not machines. Something older. Vira stood. They found us. Jack grabbed his rifle, but Vira whispered, not they, him. From the shadows stepped a tall alien figure wrapped in snow-white armor with a tribal tattoo burned across his chest. Vira gasped. Tovak. Jack aimed his weapon. Friend of yours? She shook her head. My mate's brother, the one sent to kill us. And just like that, the warmth in the room turned to ice. Because now the cursed child's fate would be judged, not by prophecy, not by science, but by blood. The old outpost's silence shattered with the sound of footsteps, slow, heavy, filled with purpose. Jack stood between the doorway and Vira, rifle raised, heart pounding. He had survived war. He had survived beasts. But something about the way this new alien moved made his instincts scream. He didn't walk like a man. He walked like a sentence being carried out. Vira didn't move. Her arms tightened around her child, and her voice was quiet but sharp. Tovak. The figure stepped into the flickering light of the control room. He was tall, taller than Jack, with snow-colored armor built from bones and steel. His face was marked with ash. His eyes were golden but cold as frost. Across his chest, a carved pendant glowed faintly. It was the mark of an executioner. Tovak stopped 10 feet from them. Sister, he said flatly. You have no right to call me that, Vira replied. You have broken the law of the Frostblood. You bore the cursed one. And now you walk with a human. I walk with the only one who didn't throw us into the snow, she said. Tovak's gaze shifted to Jack. You should not have interfered, off-worlder. Jack didn't lower his rifle. Too late for that. Tovak stepped forward slowly. Give me the child, I'll end his pain quickly. You call that mercy? Vira snapped. You would murder your own blood? He is a mark of doom, Tovak growled. The elders said, the elders are afraid, Vira shouted, her voice echoing off the metal walls. They fear what they don't understand, just like you. The baby stirred in her arms, letting out a soft cry. Jack tightened his grip on the rifle. Back off. Tovak looked at him and then moved like lightning. Jack fired. But Tovak rolled to the side, the blast missing by inches. In one motion, the alien warrior lunged forward and slammed into Jack, knocking the rifle across the room. Jack hit the wall with a grunt, pain shooting through his shoulder. Vira turned, shielding her child as Tovak advanced. You won't touch him, she shouted. Tovak stopped. You would fight your own kin? He asked. Vira stared at him. I would fight anyone who threatens my child. Tovak's face twisted in disgust. You are not the sister I remember. No, she said, softly. I'm stronger now. She closed her eyes and began to hum, not a lullaby, not a song of sorrow, but something older, deeper, a voice that came from her blood. The walls of the chamber trembled. Jack groaned on the floor, barely lifting his head. The air felt heavy, like the gravity had doubled. Tovak froze, confused. Then his legs buckled. He dropped to one knee, his armor shaking. What are you doing? Vira's eyes opened. They glowed like stars. I was born with a voice that breaks chains, she said. You tried to silence it. Now hear what you feared. Her song grew louder, not in sound, but in presence. Tovak screamed, clutching his head. The bone pendant around his neck cracked. He tried to stand, tried to reach for his blade, but he couldn't move. Jack crawled toward the fallen rifle. His vision blurred, but he saw the shimmer of Vira's energy pushing out, like a shield. The child in her arms was glowing too, his chest pulsing with that same star-mark light. 2 voices, 2 songs, 1 blood, 1 will. Jack grabbed the rifle and shouted, "Vyra, stop, you'll kill him." Vyra gasped. She turned to Jack, eyes wild, then looked at Tovak, who now lay still, barely breathing. She dropped to her knees, her song fading. Silence returned. Only the crackling of the old machinery remained. Minutes passed. Tovak coughed. Vera knelt beside him, her child safe in one arm. "I didn't want to destroy you," she said quietly, "but you came with death in your hands." Tovak looked at her with weak, dazed eyes. "The child, he sang with you." Vyra nodded. "He's not cursed. He's chosen." Jack stood at the doorway, bruised but steady. "We found records," he said. "From the humans. They were trying to copy the gifts of your people. Your child wasn't born by mistake. He might be the last natural link between your kind and something greater." Tovak closed his eyes. "The elders won't believe it. Then we'll make them see," Vyra said. "No," Jack interrupted. "We don't go to them." He pointed to the main terminal screen, where satellite feeds blinked faintly. "We send the truth to everyone." Later that night, Tovak rested, in one of the old bunk rooms, still breathing, no longer a threat. Jack and Vyra stood at the control station. She was quiet. He glanced at her. "You all right?" She nodded. "I never knew I could do that." The voice, it felt like fire and ice together. Jack smiled. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." She smiled back, then paused. "Thank you," she said softly. "For..." "What?" "For choosing us, when you could have walked away." Jack looked down at the baby, now sleeping in peace, then up at Vyra. "I didn't save you," he said. "You saved yourselves. I just showed up in time to see it happen." Vyra touched his hand, this time, not with fear, but with trust. And in the distance, deep in the dark sky, one star began to shine brighter than the rest. Snow fell again, soft and slow, as if the world itself had paused to breathe. Inside the abandoned research outpost, the control room buzzed with new life. Old screens blinked awake. Ancient systems hummed like tired ghosts finally speaking after. Decades of silence. Jack sat at the console, fingers flying across cracked keys. Vera stood nearby, holding her child, his faint star-shaped mark still glowing under the blanket. Tovak rested quietly in the back, injured but alive, his anger cooled into silence. "I found something," Jack said suddenly. Vera walked closer. "What is it?" He pointed to a folder buried in the system. Its name flickered on the screen in 2 languages. Project Frostborn, Prophecy Logs. Jack tapped it open. The screen showed a video recording. A human woman appeared, older, with white hair, standing in front of a stasis pod. Her voice was calm, but urgent. "To any survivor who finds this, know that we tried. We came to this world to help. But we discovered something older than our science, older than even the stars in our charts. The alien tribes here carry memories in their blood, songs that do more than heal. Some voices, especially of the mothers, can affect energy, thought, time itself." Jack leaned forward. "We found one child," the woman continued, "born under the frozen star marked by light." His voice echoed before he could speak. He was taken, feared, buried. "But we believe the prophecy was not wrong, just early." The screen went black. Then a final line of text appeared. "When the next child sings, the ice will break, and the old truth will rise." Vyra stared at the screen. Her hands trembled. "It's him," she whispered. "My son. The prophecy speaks of him." Jack nodded. They were waiting for someone like him, a child with the mark, a voice strong enough to wake what's been sleeping. She looked down at the baby. "He's still so small, so fragile." "Maybe," Jack said. "But sometimes the smallest flame can melt the biggest storm." They went deeper into the outpost past locked doors and sealed labs. Tovak limped behind them, no longer their enemy but not yet their ally. They reached a chamber buried under ice. Jack used a plasma torch to cut the door open. Inside they found a wide circular room, walls covered in carvings. Not human. Veliari. Markings. Ancient Vyra stepped forward slowly, her eyes wide. These are dream stories. My grandmother spoke of them. What do they say? Jack asked. She ran her fingers across one of the carvings, tracing it. They tell of the starborn voice, a child of two worlds, who would come when the land is dying. His cry would wake the earth. His song would break the ice. Jack raised an eyebrow. Break the ice, like melt it? Vyra shook her head. No, free it. She pointed to another symbol, one that showed figures rising from underground, lifting their hands to the sky. Jack stared. These aren't just legends, he said. These are instructions. Behind the carvings, they found a small chamber, shielded, with old tech and ancient energy. Inside were two large pods. Vyra stepped closer and gasped. Inside one pod, perfectly preserved, lay a Veliari woman. Older, her hands folded across her chest. She wore a pendant shaped like the star mark. That's my ancestor, Vyra whispered. The first singer. Jack looked at the control panel. She's in stasis. Still alive. What do we do? Vyra asked. He turned to her. We wake her. It took hours, but with Jack's help the systems rebooted. Steam hissed. Lights blinked. The pod opened with a soft sigh. The woman inside stirred. Her eyes opened, bright silver. She sat up slowly and looked around. Then her gaze fell on Vyra. Her voice was soft. My child's child. Vyra stepped forward, eyes wet. You remember me? The woman touched her face. I remember your song. I heard it in my sleep. She looked down at the baby in Vyra's arms and gasped. The mark. Vyra nodded. He's the one. The prophecy child. The elder placed her hand on the child's head, then whispered something in a language Jack didn't understand. The child glowed brighter. Later, they sat in the ancient chamber with the elder explaining the truth. The mark is not a curse, she said. It is a key. Long ago, when humans first came, our people feared them, but the stars had already spoken. They said one would be born, of two fates who would join the broken halves. Jack asked, and the others tried to stop it? The elder nodded. They buried the truth, banished the mother, called the gift a disease. They were afraid of change. She looked at Jack. But you chose to change. Jack stood and looked at the carved ceiling. We have proof now, he said. Proof the child is the bridge between worlds. Vyra looked at him. But will anyone listen? They will, he said. Because we'll show them. Back in the control room, Jack activated the outpost's last working transmitter. The message was short, but powerful. This is a warning and a hope. The child lives. The prophecy is real. And the ice is waking. In the sky, a distant satellite blinked. Far away, in other colonies and stations, the signal began to spread, and the world began to stir. They came at dawn, from the high cliffs, through the snow tunnels, across the frozen river. They came with fire in their hands and judgment in their hearts. The Frostblood tribe had arrived. Their war chief rode a beast made of ice and bone. Behind him marched 30 warriors, faces covered with frost paint. Spears crackled with frozen plasma. Banners waved in the wind, each one marked with the ancient sigil of silence. They did not come to speak. They came to end. Inside, the ruined outpost, the signal from the prophecy chamber still echoed across nearby skies. Jack checked the radar. They're surrounding us. We've got maybe 5 minutes before they breach. Vyra stood calmly, her child wrapped tight to her chest. Her eyes were no longer afraid. They've come to erase us, she said. Jack looked at her. Then let's give them something they'll never forget. Tovak stepped into the room, armor strapped tight. His old wounds still stung, but he moved with purpose. "I'll speak to them first," he said. "They still listen to my voice." Vyra narrowed her eyes. "And if they choose violence, then I'll make them hear yours." Outside, the tribe formed a circle around the outpost. The war chief raised his spear and shouted in the old tongue, "Return the cursed, burn the prophecy, let no star child live." Tovak stepped forward, alone. "I have seen the truth," he called out. "The curse is a lie. The child is a voice that can bind two worlds." The chief's eyes burned. "You protect traitors and outworlders now, Tovak?" "I protect hope," Tovak said. But they would not listen. The war drums began. Inside, Jack opened a hatch in the roof. "We'll have to broadcast this. Let the colonies see it all. The truth and the fire." Vyra walked to the center of the Sieg outpost. She laid her child in a nest of warm cloth and stone, kissed his forehead, then turned to face the door. She wore no armor. She held no weapon, only her voice. The main door burst open. Snow flew in. The warriors charged, and Vyra sang. It was not the soft lullaby of a mother. It was the call of an ancient bloodline. Her song tore through the wind like thunder, deep and pure. The flames of the attackers bent backward. The snow stopped mid-air. The warriors staggered, some dropped their weapons, one cried out and fell to his knees. Jack watched from behind the camera. "It's working, it's reaching them." The war chief raised his arm. "Stop her." But Tovak stepped between Vyra and the blade. "You will not silence her again." The chief slashed him across the chest. Tovak collapsed, but Vyra kept singing. Her voice grew louder, stronger, and then her child joined her. From the blankets, the baby released a soft hum. Just a note. Just a tone, but it shook the walls. Every torch in the tribe's hands went out. The fire became light. The judgment became stillness. The elder woman, the first singer, emerged from the back room, her silver eyes glowing. She raised her arms. "You came to destroy a curse," she said to the tribe. "But what stands before you is the cure." The warriors lowered their spears, one by one, until only the chief remained standing. His face twisted in confusion and fear. "This is not our way," he said. Vyra stepped forward. "Then your way has ended." She placed her hand on the chief's forehead and whispered a final word of peace. He fell to his knees. The sky cleared. The storm broke. And for the first time in many years, sunlight touched the frostlands. The footage was broadcasted live across colonies. Millions saw it. The voice, the light, the child, not a weapon, not a monster, but a bridge. Messages poured in, from Earth, from orbiting ships, from nearby settlements. We see the child. We hear the song. We believe. That night, as fires burned for warmth, not war, Jack stood on the cliffside with Vyra. She held her child, who now slept in calm light. "You were right," she said. "About what?" "That sometimes one small flame can melt the biggest storm." Jack smiled. "So what now?" "We rebuild," she whispered. "Not just homes, but trust." He nodded. "And the tribes? They will follow the song, they always have. They just needed someone brave enough to sing it again." Behind them, the once dead outpost glowed like a star. But the real light was already awake. The snow no longer screamed. It whispered now. Quiet, calm, soft like breath. The Frostlands were no longer a place of exile, but a home reborn, where death once ruled, life now bloomed. It had been 17 days since the Judgment Fire. The outpost was no longer just a ruin, it had become a sanctuary. A place where human survivors, tribe members, and exiles from across the ice came together. They called it Hearthpost now, named after the warmth that saved them all. The baby, once cursed and almost left to die, now had a name. Elian, the name meant bright echo in the old Veliari tongue, and he had become exactly that, a soft echo of the song that had changed everything. Vera stood near the crystal pool behind the sanctuary, watching the water ripple under the wind. Her child was resting in a sling against her chest, small fingers clinging to her necklace. His mark, the glowing star on his chest, was faint now but pulsing gently like it was waiting for the right time to sing again. Jack walked up beside her, quiet as always. She didn't need to turn. She could feel when he was near now, like a warm fire at her back. He didn't speak at first, just stood there taking in the view. Then he said softly, "They're calling you the mother of the new voice." Vera smiled gently. "I didn't ask for that." "I know. That's why it fits." She looked down at her son. "He didn't ask for any of this either." "No," Jack said. But he answered anyway. That evening, a meeting was held in the open circle under the stars. Representatives came from nearby tribes, small human camps, and even 2 orbiting research vessels who had landed just to witness the peace. Tovak, now healed, stood beside his sister, no longer her judge, now her shield. He had taken a new title, Watcher of the Flame, a protector of both worlds. At the meeting, an agreement was signed in stone and song. One line was written in both the human alphabet and Veliari glyphs. "No child born with light shall ever be left in the dark again." Later, Jack sat by the fire, carving small symbols into a smooth piece of metal. Vera approached and sat beside him. "You've been quiet," she said. "Just thinking," he replied. "Still don't like speeches?" He shook his head. "I've seen too many promises broken after the clapping ends." Vera looked into the fire. "So, what would make you stay?" Jack paused. "I never said I was leaving, but you haven't said you're staying either." He looked at her, really looked at her. "You have your people now, your voice, your son. You don't need me." Vera didn't argue. Instead, she reached out and gently touched his shoulder. He froze, because once, long ago, she had done this at a grave, when she was barely alive. Now, she did it fully awake, fully present, fully hers. She leaned in, forehead gently touching his. "I don't need you," she whispered, "but I want you here." Jack's eyes softened. "No one's ever said that to me without a reason behind it." "This is my reason," she said, placing her other hand over her son's. "He is our reason." The next morning they climbed to the hilltop where Jack had once stood watch. He had brought something with him, a small tattered piece of fabric. On it was a patch from his old mission uniform. The symbol was half sun, half blade. He held it out to her. "This was all I had left of who I was." Vera took it gently. "And now?" Jack smiled. "Now I know who I want to be." A small ceremony was held that night. No fireworks, no loud songs, just light. The Veliari elders lit the sky with glowing dust from the ice blossoms. Children sang, softly in 2 languages. Humans and aliens ate from the same table. Peace didn't come with a boom. It came with quiet joy. At the end of the night, as the fire faded and the last songs drifted into the cold sky, Vera stood beside Jack once more. This time there were no words. She simply placed her hand on his shoulder and never took it away. Years later, a small boy ran through the valley, chasing wind spirits between the glowing trees. His laughter echoed like music, and every time he smiled, the mark on his chest glowed faintly. Elian was older now, still small, still curious, but no longer called cursed. He was called the first voice of the new age. At the edge of the valley, a human-built tower stood beside a Veliari treehouse, a new school, a place where science and song were taught together. Inside, Jack taught tech to alien children. Vera taught history and music. They worked side by side, and their son, born from exile, raised in love, walked freely between both worlds. One evening, Elian sat with his mother under the stars. Do you remember the day I was born? He asked. Vira nodded. How could I forget? Was I really going to die in the snow? She smiled, sad and proud at once. Yes, but a strange man walked toward me with fire in his hands. And saved me? No, she said. He gave me the choice to fight for you. And I did. Elian leaned against her side. I want to be like him. Vira looked toward the lights where Jack was returning from the fields. You already are. As Jack joined them, he sat beside Vira and Elian. They looked out at the stars, so quiet, so endless. Vira leaned her head on Jack's shoulder and whispered again. Thank you for showing up, he smiled. And thank you for making me stay. The snow still fell in the frostlands, but now it fell on hope.